Friends, on November 25th, 3 college students of Palestinian descent were shot on the streets of Burlington, Vermont. One of them will be paralyzed for life. They were speaking in both English and Arabic before a gunman shot them. 2 of the men wore Palestinian keffiyehs, the traditional scarf or headdress. 2 of the victims are U.S. citizens, and the third is a legal U.S. resident. All are 20 years of age. And these 3 young men are truly gifted. Students of Brown University, Haverford College, Trinity College in Connecticut. All 3 are graduates of the Ramallah Friends School, a private Quaker secondary school on the West Bank. A Vermont man was charged with 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder, and investigators, I don't know if it's been determined yet, determining whether it's technically a hate crime. I can't think it's anything else, but that has federal law enforcement implications. This crime is horrendous, and we Jews must condemn it in every possible way. If a Palestinian student wearing keffiyeh and speaking Arabic cannot walk the streets of this country, something is seriously wrong. And we know how serious this kind of vulnerability and violence is. PIX News, it's a radio station in New York. They have their own website. Last Shabbat, a group attacked 3 Jewish people, including a teenager, on a Brooklyn street. 3 suspects punched a 40-year-old man who was walking home from the synagogue near East 15th Street and Avenue A in Midwood at 3:25 p.m. on Saturday, according to the NYPD. 30 minutes later, this trio assaulted a 15-year-old boy near Avenue J and East 17th Street. The teen was punched and kicked. Obviously, these are traditional areas, and they looked like Jews. They were in kippot, and all that is obviously identifies them as being Jewish. This is America today. Jerusalem Post. French Jewish institutions and schools are under tight security protection for several years, and the French police is vigilant over offering permits to carry weapons. But French Jews still live in fear of spontaneous violent acts of anti-Semitism, using kitchen knives and other readily available deadly means, as was the case last Friday in the city of Arras, where 20-year-old Dominique Bernard, in front of the school where he was teaching, the perpetrator of the act yelled Allah Akbar before stabbing Bernard. And the realities of a French Jewish student is explained here. Stephanie, a 21-year-old student at the Sorbonne, recalled, "I went to Jewish school, and we were always told to be careful, to take off the kippah once we step out of the doors of the school building, walk home quickly." Ariel Caden from The Forward this past week, "When I lived in Germany 6 years ago, I didn't wear a Jewish star necklace on the street. I didn't tell strangers I was researching the state of the country's Jewish community, lest they asked me if I was Jewish myself. The Jewish people within Germany as a whole seemed to be hiding. They didn't wear kippahs or Jewish jewelry outside. Jewish institutions didn't have signs on the fronts of their buildings. Jews in Germany, I came to understand, were living within a culture of fear." She thought when she returned to the United States it would be different. But then she reports in this article, which you can get it online, "The other day my non-Jewish roommate told me she was happy we didn't have a mezuzah on our door because if we did, she'd be afraid. And my Orthodox Jewish friends are afraid to wear their kippahs on the subway." When we took our kids to New York for our confirmation class, we did our tour of the World Trade Center. And I noticed a lot of men and young boys wearing caps, like a baseball cap. And I've seen this on flights to Israel when I've flown to Israel on Delta. These are Jewish men who wear kippot all the time, but they don't want to be targets, so they wear caps in order to prevent them from wearing a kippah, and you can spot them. And this is the question: do I wear a kippah or do I wear a cap? We Jews are living in difficult times. On October 13th, we had this solidarity service in the aftermath of Hamas pogrom in our sanctuary. And our synagogue was filled with many members of the St. Andrew's Church, and we had a very small number that night of members who were present, of our congregation who were present. And if there was a time to be in a sanctuary, this was the time. That's how I thought. We had at least 50 members of St. Andrew present, and we had no more than 25 of our members. And here were the numbers on streaming that night: 77 on YouTube, Facebook 239, website 127. We had almost 500 people online. So why did people stay home? I think they were afraid. The number of people present in our sanctuary since October 7th has been, this is a large crowd, but it's been very small. Why? I think we are afraid. Friends, we are in a pivotal moment in Jewish history. The issue of public Judaism is central to Hanukkah this year, really every year, but especially this year. Because there's always been a debate in the Talmud about the placing of the Chanukiah, the menorah. On Hanukkah, there is a mitzvah to perform, which is called Pirsumei Nisa, which means publicizing the miracle of the holiday by lighting the candles, or whatever lights that you light. And in the Talmud, it says the following, and it's incredibly interesting. It's unbelievably interesting. And what's found in the Talmud later becomes codified, and so this is Jewish practice today. It says in the Talmud, the sages taught, it is a mitzvah, it is a commandment to place the Chanukiah lamp at the entrance to one's house on the outside, so that all can see it. And if one lived upstairs, they place it at the window adjacent to the public domain. And in times of danger, when non-Jews issue decrees to prohibit kindling of lights, they place it on the table, and this is sufficient to fulfill their obligations. In other words, you put it on your table in your kitchen so you can see it, but no one else can see it, because it's dangerous. Even though the Talmud tells us to light outside in the dark, where everyone can see it, we're told that in times of danger, you light it indoors, and that fulfills the obligation. Is this a year so dangerous that we should light it in our homes, on the kitchen, and not in our windows? I think that is the fundamental question of Hanukkah this year. And it's interesting, I shared this comment with my rabbinic colleagues on the Reform discussion group, and someone responded to me, Alan, this is the sermon of the year. This is the sermon. 40 years ago, when I started my career, that question would be absurd. It would have been absurd. It would have been seen as crazy. What do you mean you're afraid? I mean, obviously, I went to rabbinical school in New York City, so the Jews are very prominent. Jews don't feel safe in New York City now. What are we to do now? Now, let's get very practical. And it's our congregation. You're here. Let's discuss it. We have this wonderful Chanukiah, and it would be put up very nicely at 2:30 on Sunday, because I've twisted enough arms. We have this wonderful Chanukiah. We light it every night of Hanukkah. It's become a tradition. It will be very public. You can see it when you drive down Gregory. That's why we do it. And we will have police here, and we will do it proudly. But not without some additional concern. And that's why I hope our attendance is strong this year. We cannot have another period of time when we don't do what we need to do because we are fearful. Caution is warranted, but fear is debilitating. Yet if we are afraid to carry out the Pirsumei Nisa, the sharing, the proclaiming of the miracle, what does it say about American Jews in our future? This is the critical issue of American Jews. And if we're afraid, what does it mean? Is this the year to hide? Now, on November 29th, Senator Chuck Schumer gave one of the most important messages in American Jewish history in the Senate. And I don't say this with hyperbole. Go find it on YouTube and watch his 43 minutes of his speech about what it means to be an American Jew to him now. It's one of the most extraordinary speeches I've ever heard in my life. You gotta watch it. I'd even get, if you don't watch TV on Shabbat, watch it. No, it is so powerful. People will be quoting it 100 years from today. And you know I don't like when anyone else speaks except me, okay? But it is, here is one of his excerpts from this message. He said, 53 days ago, citizens of Israel suffered a horrendous attack orchestrated and executed by Hamas. Since October 7th, Jewish-owned businesses that have nothing to do with Israel have been boycotted and vandalized. Jewish students on college campuses have been harassed and assaulted with alarming frequency. A Jewish high school teacher in Queens told me about being forced to hide in a locked office from student protesters who were demanding that she be fired because she attended a rally supporting Israel. These are just a few examples, but they point to a troubling trend. Too often in Jewish history, legitimate criticism of Israeli policies, or even older disputes over religious, economic, and political issues, have crossed over into something darker, into attacking Jewish people simply for being Jewish. What happened last week at Queens High School is an example of crossing that threshold. Walking out of school to march in support of Palestinians is completely illegitimate. But forcing a Jewish teacher to hide because she had attended a rally in support of Israel is anti-Semitism pure and simple. For many Jewish people today, the rise of anti-Semitism is more than a crisis. It's a five-alarm fire. That's why I feel compelled to speak out, especially considering the growing disparity between how Jewish people understand the rise of anti-Semitism and how many of my non-Jewish friends regard it. These are difficult times. But we are not allowed during these times to hide the miracle of Hanukkah, which is not about oil for 8 days. The miracle is that we Jews have survived and intend to continue to survive. We owe it to our ancestors, many of them who died because they were Jews, to the world who needs the light and voice of the Jewish people probably more than ever, and to ourselves and our children, because we need to affirm to them that in every generation, we Jews have been challenged and we have triumphed. We intend to live up to the covenant with God. We have a purpose in the world, and we intend to fulfill it. Shabbat Shalom.